It's so strange.
What?
Like when to start?
Do we have to start recording?
If you can.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone who joined our Ovogene webinar series. And today we are dedicated to a very sensitive topic, the transportation of the biological materials from Ukraine to all over the globe. Myself, Dr. Uliana Dorofeyeva, the medical director of Ovogene, Birol Aydin, our laboratory director and the scientific advisor, and Peter Hura, who is an invited speaker, who is the CEO of the ARKCryo company, has joined our webinar today. And we are going to talk about our practical experience, what we already did, and about this specific day, which was 24th of February, when we had to take very fast and very right decision about the relocation of the biological materials from Ukraine. As you all know, the real war is now in Ukraine. We are located in Europe, as most big part of our team members, as well as all our biological materials and all our storages are safely stored in Slovakia, in Bratislava, in the licensed facility. However, before this started, and on the 24th of February, anyone was ready to that day, and anyone was ready to that specific situation and all the actions which we have taken. So in one day, in 1 minute, we had to make decisions to extremely fast freeze all our materials, to collect them all and to put them all in the storages, to deal with the customs, with the legal authorities, with the transport company, with all who was dedicated to this specific action to make this happen. And now it's the new reality, and we did this for the benefit of our patients, for the benefit of our partners, and for all these people with whom we've been in communication during all these hard times. And now this is true that everyone can continue their treatment, and we are receiving more and more and many emails and the phone calls and the WhatsApp messages about how to continue the treatment of the patients. You know that Ukraine was so great location for the IVF treatment. Different locations from all over the globe. Thousands and millions of the patients were visiting Ukraine, especially for egg donation and the surrogacy treatment, which was absolutely transparent, legal, and affordable, and also with the high results and the patient care. So part of this treatment, mainly oocyte donation, we continue in our partner clinic in Slovakia, as we understand that this is the right of the patient to select their doctor, their treatment location, and they have a treatment needs, and the time is running. And after the COVID, which was in place during almost 2 years, and many patients couldn't reach Ukraine for their treatment, they were waiting, and they just started to come again and again, just recently, around 6 months before the war started. And then another situation came, which also closes their doors to continuation the treatment. However, for all these patients for whom their materials are in Bratislava, in Slovakia, they can continue the treatment. So we are going to talk specifically about how this happened. And if you are still a patient of Ukrainian clinic and still your materials are in Ukraine, just for you to know, I'm from Lviv, and this is the western part of Ukraine, and we are checking all the news and everything what is happening in Ukraine every minute. So this morning, 5 rockets were in Lviv, and 7 people were died. These are all civil people. It's not a military actions. It's we can say that there is no more safe place in Ukraine. So we cannot think that the East is more dangerous or the Kiev is more dangerous and the West is not. Unfortunately, this is our reality right now. And I would like to invite Peter to talk about the specific actions which has been taken, the algorithms, how to relocate the materials, what is needed, what has been done. And you can also ask your questions in the chat in the YouTube channel. So we will answer every specific question after the discussion. Also, you can ask questions to me, like about what kind of treatment can be done, how we do this, how to relocate the materials. We will cover all these questions. However, if you have any specific needs or any clarifications needed, please do not hesitate to ask the questions. So Peter, it's your turn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Uliana. Thank you for introducing, and thank you everyone who joined to our webinar today. And I would start my conversation first with the point that all information we have, it is our own opinion based on the news we received in Ukraine and communication with the clinics here in Ukraine and other authorities on the places. And actually, who needs evacuation their samples? First of all, those who have their samples stored at the clinics on the east, south, and central parts of Ukraine. For example, such cities like Kharkiv, Kiev, Dnipro, Odessa, and others. Their territories suffer the most from the hostilities and crimes of Russian Federation, and these hostilities are continuous almost everywhere there, or there is a risk of re-escalation. Despite of military action, there are also some issues with supplying with liquid nitrogen, which is critical to support availability of biological material. Some of the clinics already informed that they have enough liquid nitrogen to keep survival of their samples only until of the May. Some other clinics has already solved that issue. However, they still have some problems with the logistics, and it changes day by day, and no one can ensure there won't be a problem in the future. And indeed, if we are talking about the west of Ukraine, such cities like Lviv, Lutsk, Uzhhorod, Chernivtsi is now relatively safe from some hostilities. That is why some patients and some clinics have already moved their material to this part of Ukraine. However, at the same time, the risk of hostilities in this area still exists. And in the last few weeks, there have been attempts by rocket fire to neutralize the critical infrastructures of the cities. And these attempts continue at interval that no one can follow. And as Dr. Uliana said, unfortunately today, even during my preparation for this webinar, we had here in Lviv 4 missile strikes in the city, and several of them hit the objects of civilian infrastructure, and people die there. Unfortunately, it makes me feel again like there is no safe place in Ukraine anymore. And beside that, many others who wants to ship their samples outside of Ukraine, they face with some issues with shipping their samples out because all flights from Ukraine are suspended, airspace is fully closed, and there are no option to ship samples from Ukraine but by air at all. The only possible way how to ship samples out of Ukraine, it is only on-road transportation with crossing border on the west of the country. Ukraine borders with such countries like Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Slovakia. And 3/4 one has difficult legislation of entering samples inside the territory, their territory from outside of EU. And despite of military actions in Ukraine, these countries didn't change their regulation regarding import tissues and cells. The process of import in those countries requires an entry permit from the Ministry of Health or other related authorities in the country, and it unfortunately takes additional time. The time that we don't have, unfortunately, taking in account of all those events which are going right now in Ukraine. And same time, the Slovakian legislation is not flexible, and our partner clinic there in Bratislava in Slovakia has already obtained some general permit to receive samples outside of European Union. And no one need to waste his time for additional permits, applying for more different documents. And of course, the clinic has some standard requirements in order to receive and accept samples out of the country, but it is really very short list, and it mostly depends on the personal ability of the patient or the couple to fill in some forms and sign and send it by email. And at least it doesn't depend on availability of our third parties, such as authorities, as I already mentioned, in order to receive import or export permits. And I'm very happy to hear that, because as I already mentioned, the time has the real value now. And following the requirements for the documents, so what exactly the Slovakian clinic requires? The lists of their paperwork are really short, and if we are talking about every document they need, they simply need agreement between Ukrainian clinic and Slovakian clinic. It is just like a very short agreement, which is one of the legal reasons for the clinics to accept your samples. The other important document is import form. By the way, right now I'm telling you about this paperwork, and I believe we will be able to send all this information by email after this webinar to everyone who has already registered and joined to our webinar. So import consent form, this is also one of the legal issue for the clinic to receive and accept your samples. This is a form where the couple need to mention where is located the clinic of the storage of their sample. They need to mention their names, full names, their personal details, and just sign that form at all. And the other important form is consent form for storage at the clinic in Slovakia. It is needed for the clinic to have information, to have your allowance to accept your sample and store for some time at their facility. This form also needs to be filled in and signed by the couple, and there has to be their full contact information. And the most important thing, it is this form where it calls sample documentation form. This form is required to be filled by the storage facility in Ukraine. There has to be, again, full information about the couple, but beside there has to be very clear information about the time of the samples. Did the couple have number of straws, of vials, and their labels, freezing dates, and another lot of information. It is very informative form for that, and there has to be include very basic information about your sample. And of course, beside of requirements of the clinic in Slovakia, we don't need to forget that there are also some requirements of Ukrainian clinics in order to release samples for shipping. And in that fact, I wanted to say that according to the Ukrainian legislation about infertility treatment, any patient has a right to continue his treatment in any other medical facility in Ukraine or outside of Ukraine. And at the same time, the only approved form for releasing samples from the clinic in Ukraine is the act of transferring biological material. It has to be complete. It is very similar form like last one I said from Slovakia, and it has to be completed by the clinic in Ukraine. There has to be, again, information about the patient, their personal information like passport details, date of birth, and also lab information about how many samples they have, how it is labeled, frozen, and exactly the name of the receiving clinic abroad. Yes, almost the same information as in the document that Slovakian clinic requires. So I believe it won't be an issue for the clinic in Ukraine to fill in this form as well. Besides those documents, there are also others that might be asked by the clinic on their request, such as power of attorney from the couple on the name of shipping company or authorized courier to pick up and transport your samples from their facility to another. There can be also acceptance letter from the receiving clinic. This is an official document which confirms that the clinic outside of Ukraine accept your samples. It has to be on an official letterhead of the clinic, and also has to be signed by the CEO of the clinic and also stamped. There can be also some other requests for forms for releasing your samples for shipping. You definitely need to check it before with the clinic where your samples right now are stored. And what you should remember here is that if you are going to prepare the power of attorney, it usually has a legal value when it is fully notarized and also with apostille. And usually when it is notarized, the clinic might require you to send an original. However, currently, due to military activities in Ukraine, most of post companies suspended their deliveries to Ukraine. And it is almost impossible to deliver any original document to Ukraine, or it might take a very long time, something around a few weeks. So it's better to discuss and clarify that issue with the clinic in Ukraine in advance. I already know that many clinics in Ukraine, they agreed to receive a very qualified scanned copy of the power of attorney instead of original document by post, I mean. And also same about notarized documents from Ukraine. I already know some cases when other clinics outside of Ukraine asked the patients to send some original documents, notarized but in Ukraine, which is also very difficult and almost impossible. I think everyone must understand the situation in Ukraine. So how looks the shipping schedule? Let's talk about this. Currently, we ship once per week from Kyiv and south parts of Ukraine, and once per week from Ukraine to Bratislava in Slovakia. All samples from central and south parts of Ukraine we ship for storage in our partner clinic here in Lviv. And this clinic, it might be stored for 1 or 2 days before shipping to Slovakia. This time is needed for completing all customs documents for the customs and some additional actions like filling the tank with enough of liquid nitrogen for the trip from Ukraine to Slovakia. Also, documents for the customs we can complete only when samples have reached the clinic in Lviv. Unfortunately, we cannot do it early because there is a high risk of delays in shipping from Kiev or other central parts of Ukraine, and all delays are due to military actions in the city of the pickup or some issues on the way back. And if we see any alarm or any information about curfew time, the courier stays at the city because it's too dangerous to move. And of course, he continues his trip as soon as everything is normalized. And if I am talking about possible delays, so I don't mean that it is for the week or even more. Usually it might be for 1 or 2 days, not more. And anyway, I hope you understand the situation and why it is better to move step by step. And in case your location is Kiev, Kharkiv, Dnipro, or Odessa, just be ready that the first step, we will ship your samples to Lviv, and then from Lviv to Bratislava. And again, if Slovakia is not your final destination and you would like to move your samples to another facility in another country, just be ready. It will be also possible only after samples will reach the clinic in Bratislava. We also need sometimes to ship samples from Ukraine to Bratislava. And what else? About information regarding the possible cost for transportation. I want just to inform everyone that the war in Ukraine has not only changed typical life in Ukraine and business here, but also affected our related industries outside of Ukraine, I believe. Due to closed airspace over Ukraine, sanction on Russia, and significant increase of prices for oil, the logistic industry has also suffered, and some flights changed their typical flight routes, increased their prices, and made their flight time more longer. And definitely the price for shipping sample has also changed compared with the prices that we have before the war. But it's only because of expenses, which also grown. And there are several reasons for that as well. First of all, it is human sources because we involved throughout the process of evacuation from Ukraine to Slovakia more person when it was before. For example, one courier shipped samples from Kiev to Lviv, the other one make everything possible for shipping outside of Ukraine. It is filling tank with liquid nitrogen, prepare all equipment requested for shipping out, and yeah, it also we definitely need more people to be involved in the process in order to avoid all possible risks. But at the same time, our company has offered many good options for which currently include shipping inside the EU, combined delivery, and some other group shipments from Ukraine to Europe or even out of Europe as well. So you can contact our company by email, and our manager will be able to give you more information about this. So if you want to know more information about possible risk and how it is safe for samples right now to transfer them during the war from Ukraine and outside of Ukraine, sometimes it usually takes more days than it was expected. I think we can continue our conversation with Birol, and he will be able to give more information.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. And that is true that you and all your team are doing a great job, even risky and even very important, but it's still the tension to move the materials out of Ukraine and the responsibilities are really huge. So, but this is the only way right now to continue the treatment for our international patients, as we all understand that any of international patient will be able to come to Ukraine. Even me, while crossing the border back to Ukraine, it's absolutely empty border, and the people there are asking, "Why are you going there?" Of course, I have the reason why I'm going there, but it's because I'm Ukrainian and this is my homeland. But for all our international patients, it will be impossible. So, possible to move the materials and to continue the treatment. This is the way how to proceed. But of course, in addition to the medical couriers and the team of the ARKCryo, the huge job is done by the embryologists, because all the processes are done under their supervision, and every movement, every relocation of the materials, also the paperwork, also the critical points are checked by our embryological team and under Birol's supervision. So I would like to invite him to talk about the practical aspects and to ensure all who are together with us about the safety of this process. So Birol, here.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I wish peace and glory to beautiful Ukraine, and I wish crimes of Russian Federation will stop immediately. So I will talk about the several points which I am getting question from all of you, from the patient, the partner clinics, and everyone. The first thing we have to know, the critical situation, as we are calling war, fire, water flooding, earthquakes, and such situation, the main things every clinic have or cryolab have exactly an evacuation plan, which will give a possibility to move all storages and frozen biomaterial quickly and without any risk and safety. Of course, the new strategies of the many clinics they are using a huge vapor storage tanks. So while it's giving a big economy, financial economy, and a place economy for the frozen biomaterial, they can keep many frozen material in a tanks, which we are talking about tons, so big storages. But of course, when such critical situation come to move such storages, almost impossible from the logistic way. That's why, I mean, it depends of location of the countries, or like a clinics, which they are considering themselves and some risk category. Of course, they have to use some movable storage, which they can move easily in case of risk. So how we are keeping this safety of storages during the transportation? There are different kind of storages, which we are talking. The first one is a regular one, a movable one, which keep 50-60 liter liquid nitrogen inside, and we can keep up to 1,000 of frozen biomaterial as a straw or vial, doesn't matter. So basically that they need every 4 or 5 days the filling of liquid nitrogen. So when we were moving the material inside of a big storage, of course they are totally full, and like this trip take maximum 1 or 2 days, so there was no possible damage or risk for the liquid nitrogen level. But of course, that all storage is still connected with the data logger, which is getting a temperature, actual temperature, also level of liquid nitrogen. But another type of storages is a vapor storages. They are keeping much more longer actually, but they are working with 300-400 millimeter of the level of the liquid nitrogen, which also they need to refill every 3-4 days. And they are working also sensor of liquid nitrogen level. The main point, that question of everyone, does electricity is important for the storage? Actually, no, only data logger is connected with the electricity, which is controlling the temperature level, but even a new brand of storages, vapor storages, has their own battery, so even they can give up to 1 month the control of a level of liquid nitrogen and temperature. But for the regular, any cryo storage doesn't require electricity normally. If we are talking about shippers, while for us much more important, especially for individual shipment for out of Ukraine and out of from the country to country, which Peter was mentioning. So for them, keeping safety of the material is much more easy, because with the vapor, they can keep the frozen biomaterial safety under up to 10 days. Even when we are shipping the material, we are leaving the part of liquid nitrogen additional than vapor. So we are increasing that amount of the day. So that give us a possibility to keep the material much more safety than regular storage with the vapor shippers. So what kind of lab documents we are preparing for the biomaterial shipment? Actually, like each individual patient have different requirements, depends of which country they are living or which country they want to move. They are frozen oocyte or embryos, doesn't matter. So if they are frozen oocytes, of course, we have to give information about origin of the, if donor oocyte, origin of the donor oocyte with the detailed cryopreservation record, because which clinic will get these oocytes or embryos, they have to talk with exactly way which we prescribe. So also we need Biomaterial Transfer Act, which Peter was mentioning. So with all details about the patient, passport number, and all identification detail, plus all details regarding embryos, straws, cryopreservation way, and even if there is like pre-implantation genetic diagnosis tested. So all this information should be taken place on the Frozen Biomaterial Act. So one of the also important question, like all patients are considering, so we are moving many of the storages. Is there any risk for the mix up the material? So of course, theoretically it's not possible because each straws label it with a special identification code of the patient, different marker, different label. Even some of the clinics are using electronic witnessing system with RFID chip technology. So there is no possible as a frozen material, like a patient material will be mixed up. What is the role of the cryo company for the biomaterial shipment? So from my perspective, actually, I can talk. Of course, like when you prepare as an embryologist shipper and to give to courier, like as a possibility, just courier will go to make a custom job and to ship to another clinic. But it is not that much simple, because still there are a lot of safety issues during this transportation, because all trip is not taking 1 hour. So they can fly to US, they can fly to Brazil, Argentina, is so far away. So during the way, like during the road, that can be additional question regarding data logger, regarding the level of the liquid nitrogen. So that's why courier company, which couriers are working, so they should have at least a basic embryological knowledge, like regarding the frozen material, which temperature we should keep, which temperature is the critical. So if temperature is going to less than, let's say 180, minus 180, what they should do. If there is additional plan during the steps, like if they have 2 stops of the traveling, where they can refill. If we have a plan as a courier company for refilling of the liquid nitrogen or shipper, those are all questions. So that's why as we are working with ARKCryo, so I know all the couriers, while they have really high experience regarding a biomaterial shipment. So they know all possibilities and they have additional plan B for all situations. Also, the main point, the lower temperature for the embryos and sperm are different on the dry shipper. So when temperature level go less than minus 180, of course, on the vapor shipper, it's getting critical. That's why that courier company should use data logger, which will keep the safety of the material. And for sperm material, this level is minus 150, actually less, because we are using a vial and more volume. For embryo and oocyte, they are in the drop frozen like in a straw. So that's why different device require different temperature level. But they are couriers that traveling with the fully charged of the vapor shippers, and depends of even outside temperature, it depends of traveling on the flight. All this situation can request additional action and plan. So I'm sure about that. Like while we are working long time, ARKCryo team have ready strategies for all this. That's some of patients were asking. While now we have also trying to, as an embryologist, which we are, I'm talking for my team, we are mostly in abroad in Slovakia. So we are able to help to our patient even for the shipments. We are doing that a lot. I can say, of course, if embryologists ship the material, maybe additional advantage, I cannot say for the transportation, but while embryologists arrive to final destination and clinic, yeah, sometimes we give the lab team over there advice. So which way is better to tow, which way is better to unload the material to put their storage, because there is common mistakes. Anyway, that wherever we are shipping material, we are shipping the material with the detailed instruction for unloading, for towing process. So we are not sending just the material with the shipper. So all clinics which you are sending your material have detailed information about warming protocol and unloading. So that's all what I need to say about embryology side. Again, I am wishing peace and glory to Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Birol. It's very important, your support and the cooperation and the professional view and the professional help. So we haven't mentioned also the document, and it's coming to the questions in our chat on the YouTube. And if you have any other questions, please go ahead with those, as we will start to answer them one by one right now. I will be asking the questions, and I will ask wherever it's related to answer this. However, I would just add a little bit about the Ovogene activities. As you know, we are an international global egg bank. Most of our materials and our donors and our oocytes were coming from Ukraine. It was about 80% of our volume. And over 6,000 oocytes are still kept in our storages in Slovakia. So we are still able to supply all our individual patients' needs and our partners' needs for the highest quality donor vitrified oocytes, and this is what we currently do. However, we are also working on the process to restart the activities for the donor screening and the stimulation and the OPUs and the vitrification, mainly for the refugees located outside of Ukraine, like our Ukrainian donors, which really need that support, and they are in touch with our team and they are ready to donate, they are ready to be involved in their process. So we are dealing with this and also with the individual patients. We have a list of the patients who've been planning to be treated in Ukraine and whose embryos are now moved to Slovakia for the purpose of the continue their treatment. So we are able to do frozen embryo transfer, IVF cycles, and the donor treatment in Slovakia. Together with our team. Like, we are not fully involved because of the license process from the medical point of view. However, we are as a team working together in Slovakia to facilitate the treatment. Also, we may perform immunological treatment. This was another group of our patients who had a need to be treated using the IVAG and intralipids and different methodologies. So we are also able to continue that kind of treatment in Slovakia. What we cannot do in Slovakia, this is the surrogacy treatment. And for these purposes, we cooperate with the centers in Georgia. Mainly, this is the country with the laws much similar to Ukraine. Also Greece, Albania, Argentina, and some other countries. They are all a little bit specific. However, we are happy to provide the consultation and to talk about individual needs and the patients for continuing their treatment. In order to explain a little bit about the additional paperwork as the lab tests and the results requested by every location, you need to know that the laws in different countries are different. For example, Ukraine was a non-EU country, even territorial, by the territory located in Europe. However, in order for the materials legally to cross the border within non-EU to EU, materials should be transported in the right and the legal way. So you cannot just put the materials in the tank and bring them to any destination in Europe, because you need to do it in the right way. By the right way, I mean to make a custom clearance process, but also to get a single European code number for the biological materials in order to be able to be used in any destination in Europe for the treatment. Without the coding, which gives the traceability for the biological material, you will not be able to be treated. So this is what is done also by our team in the cooperation also with the ARKCryo for the custom work, but also with our partner clinic in Slovakia for the single European coding. And once the materials has issued the set number, it can be transported further to any destination in Europe. For the destinations outside Europe, the single European code is not that important. However, we have a specific needs and the laws in the different destinations like the UK, Canada, and the US. UK is requesting the screening according to the HFEA requirements, and we are helping to our individual patients to check their paperwork and all the documents they have from Ukraine in order to advise if this paperwork can fit the requirements of the UK clinic. And also we are dealing with the UK partner clinics in order to help the individual patients to receive the materials which has been created in Ukraine. Of course, while we were creating the materials in Ukraine, it was for the purposes to be used in Ukraine, not for the purposes to be transported. And now we need to face the situation, and we need to be flexible from one side, but also to understand the legal requirements and to talk to the receiving center to show what has been done and how this paperwork can complete the requirements. Also, the requirements regarding Canada and the USA regarding the FDA testing of the donors or the materials, not even donors, but also individual patients. So unfortunately, here there is no alternative. Even some clinics are ready to talk about this, but I would say this is more as an exception than as a rule. So every situation with every relocation and the transportation of the materials is individual and requires the professionals and the people who knows the requirements to work on this. And we are happy to support in that. So now I will go for the questions. And let's start from the very first one. So the question from Fabiana, thank you for this. To ship our embryos from Slovakia to Georgia, we need a clinic in Ukraine, which is notarized by the Ukrainian notary. Do you have any contacts to release these solutions? Peter, I would ask you to take these questions and to respond. You are unmuted.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I believe it is related to the information I mentioned in my conversation. As I already explained, right now it is very difficult to get any kind of notarized confirmation in Ukraine due to reason of facts I already explained. And first of all, I do highly recommend to clarify with the clinic in Georgia. It is really needed to get this report to be notarized. Yeah, or it will be enough. For example, at least of, or if it will be possible to notarize it, do they require original of that paperwork, or a scanned copy will be enough? Because I believe there will be very difficult to get an original by post to Georgia, unfortunately. So, but anyway, the best way to get it notarized, you first of all need to contact with your clinic, with your storage clinic in Ukraine. If they can organize that, they can confirm, because this is mostly this question concern the storage facility. They have all lab information such as embryo report.
Yeah, but I would add, Peter, that by Ukrainian law, there is no request for the notarized certificate like this. So this is something new which has been requested by the clinic, and the patient should know that there should be a reason why the clinic is asking for this. One of the reasons could be that they are not ready to release the materials. However, this is a right of the patient, of every individual, to move the materials, to ask for the movements of the materials, and to decide about the treating facility and the treating physician and the treating location, etc. So your materials, this is your property. It's not a property of any other doctor, embryologist, or the clinic. So yes, you need to deal regarding the law. You need to deal according to the situation. However, the notarized embryo report, it's not a part of the request of the law in Ukraine. So if there is any questions like this, I'm happy also to support. Like I'm a part of the Ukrainian Association of the Reproductive Medicine, because the Ministry of Health in Ukraine is not regulating these things. There is a law which we need to follow, and if any additional decision is taken, so it needs to be approved by the authority. So part of this authority, or one of those authority, can be the Ukrainian Association. However, I haven't heard about this request. So we need to negotiate, or maybe the situation or the document is a bit different, or the question in general needs the clarification. However, like, we are happy to have a look on this and help if there is need of help. So another question. Yes, sorry.
I would like to add that if I understand it correctly from the information from Fabiana, there might be requested, but not by Ukrainian clinic, by the clinic in Georgia. So, however, same information as you mentioned right now, we didn't get from Georgia never before. Like, you know,
Did you had already a practical experience recently shipping the materials from Ukraine to Georgia, and have you had a request like this?
No, we already shipped to 2 clinics in Georgia, and no one asked us to send a notarized embryo report. So I believe it should be clarified with the clinic in Georgia as well. Why they
actually, I have an experience before. We shipped several times to Georgia embryos with a different reason. I mean, for the surrogacy and for the egg donation as well. So since 2-3 different clinics, no one asked from us like a notarized embryology report. Any of the country in the world, no one can ask a notarized medical epicris, because any notary in the world cannot notarize the special medical report. While special medical report, which we have, they are embryo scoring, like information of the stroke. So the notary, there is not such authority which will give approval for the strokes, for the quality of embryo, while they are not medical person. So that is basically impossible to get such document, even if law give permit. So it's not a like kind of regular document or contract which notary can notarize. So this is definitely either misunderstanding or either like useless request from the clinic.
Thank you for your comments, guys. So Fabiana, just you should continue working on that to clarify the request, and then probably, like, from our experience, it's quite easy to move the materials between Ukraine and Georgia. Another question: for those who have embryos with donor eggs, in which country can we start the surrogacy program? So I would probably reply on this as I listed: Georgia, Greece, Albania, a bit Portugal, a bit Argentina, Canada, and the US. So these are the countries which are available for the surrogacy treatment. The most closest in terms of the law is Georgia, and it looks the simplest right now. So it can be a solution for the treatment. And there is a continuation of this question: a country to which we will have no problem to export our embryos to, and the legal framework after birth is similar to the one in Ukraine. So yeah, we've answered already. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope this war will end soon and the surrogacy programs will start again. Yeah, thank you, Joanna. However, like right now, it's not a situation, and we would like to talk nowadays about the solutions immediately available, because if we are talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, we can call this conflict since 2014 or even earlier before. But now we should not call this as a conflict, we should call this as a real war. And we don't know how long this will take. So just talking about the alternative solutions. And the question from Robert: hello everyone, thanks for your work. Are you working with UK clinics? So this is about the transportation. So probably Peter, can you reply? Because if we are talking about the individual patients or the exportation of our donor eggs, so yes, we do cooperate with the UK clinics. We are listed as the third-party suppliers in the UK, and we can ship the materials easily there.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can just say that we have several clinics we shipped before in UK, so we will be able to share information about contact person there by email, and you will be able to choose any of them. I believe they have similar requirements in order to accept samples.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm just checking if any other questions arrived. For everyone who is in the chat, if you still have any questions or you need a clarification about any process, let's go ahead. Please type your questions in the chat. So far, I cannot see any other questions, but if there are any, Peter, maybe you can find some more.
Yeah, I see another question from Ali Bentolia. It is about shipping embryos to Mexico. So I would like to answer on that question, because the specific of shipping to Mexico, it is requirement of receiving permit from the Ministry of Health of Mexico. It's actually a specialized authority in Mexico. It calls Coffee Prima, and the receiving clinic has to receive that permit. And so we actually cooperate with our agent there in Mexico, who will be able to solve that problem with the permit. So it usually takes about between 2 and 3 weeks in order to get that, if there is an answer for your question. And as I see, there is information regarding Georgia from Fabiana. Yes, I will be able to send you information about facilities there. You will be able to contact them and get your information by email.
There is one more question for Birol regarding the cooperation for surrogacy in Georgia.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, we are working on it with the several clinics we have contact. I mean, still there is no any real action with that. I mean, we didn't send any material to start some program. Well, we want to be sure about the process, the legal way and the safety way. While material will go there, and for further process, we don't want any problem which patient will get face off. So that's why that the legal departments from the both sides is working to optimize the process. And I believe soon we will manage this optimization and also contract between the parties, like both clinics, transportation companies. So that is the main things what we are waiting for. Of course, still we had a hope like 1 month we give a frame like everything can be fine and we can go back, but while we are seeing situation is not getting safety, so we are much more seriously considering to build the collaboration with the Georgia. But again, I'm saying we don't want any of our patient will face off with some kind of problem for that's why the legal part should work. From the medical part, we don't have a question. I mean, we are ready to collaborate with Georgia clinics.
I just would add about the Georgian surrogacy. So for our practical experience at Ovogene, we've worked already with the legal side, and there is an option to prepare the paperwork for the embryo transfer for the surrogate in order to be able to deliver the baby in Ukraine. So if we don't want to wait to start the process and we have the embryos ready and we have the surrogate ready and the patient is willing to start, not to waste the time, we are preparing the surrogates for the embryo transfer. We are shipping the embryos to Georgia. We involve now also our Ukrainian women who still were looking for the options to be a surrogate or were matched with the patients already. And then there will be an option to deliver the baby in Ukraine. If we all hope this will end soon, and this is the way how we also ship our embryos and the storages. So they are shipped in the way that in the best day when we will be able to be back, we will be back and the embryos will be back and all the storages will be back to Ukraine. So another question. If the embryo is made in the US and now in Ukraine, is there a special paperwork required to get back to clinic in the US? Definitely no, because if the framework and the paperwork and the process was done in the US according to the US rules and the FDA testing, and then the embryo has been transported to Ukraine. So the only requested paperwork is for the transportation and not for the screening process or anything medical. Peter can also comment on that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see any problem to ship samples back to the USA because I believe the clinic has all information about testing the donor, if there was donor samples used for embryo creation. And I think it will be requested by the clinic in Ukraine to receive more paperwork of any kind of confirmation letter from the US clinic. But from our experience, in case all information was completed according to their requirements, like FDA, the clinic will accept samples very easily.
Okay, there was another question regarding, did any couples with donor embryos ship to Greece yet?
Well, I don't know about donor samples. We already shipped few couples from Slovakia to Greece, but honestly, I don't know any information. Was it with donor embryos or its own samples?
As for the donor embryos, there is a testing requested like a thalassemia and the sickle cell anemia for the donors in order to be transported to Greece. we need to check. So this is the point which we need to check prior to sending the embryos, not only for the custom work or the legal framework, but also the medical one. So this need to be assessed. So thank you for all your questions, checking if any. Yeah, Peter, there is a question regarding the clinic in Mexico. Which clinic do you work with in Mexico?
Yeah, we work with few of them. So I see the question from Ellie. So just don't hesitate to ask me again when you will receive mail from our company about after this webinar. Okay, I will be able to share the information.
Okay, wonderful. Which clinics in Georgia did you ship embryo before, which did not request notarized paper?
I can send also the list of their clinic, but from our experience, that was clinic Repro Art, that was also GGRC clinic in Tbilisi, and yes, and there's probably also the clinic Chachava. I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly, but anyway, we will be able to share the list of all clinics we ship already.
Yeah, we also have experience with GGRC without problem. We sent embryo there without any notarized embryological report, let's say.
So there is a request to repeat the list of the countries where to do surrogacy. As I remember, Peter, ARKCryo was about to publish the article about the surrogacy in the world, but that prioritized list for us, which we had a practical experience with, this was Georgia, Greece, Albania, Portugal, Argentina, Canada, and the US. I probably put them also in the scale of the finance requested by each location.
Yeah, definitely. We will send this information. They will be able to find this information also on our web sources. However, you need to understand, depending what part of the world is more preference for you. Yeah. Is it USA or is it Argentina or somewhere else close to Europe or Georgia, as we discussed here? Because in order to more understand which this question is concerned about, requirements or possibility to get their samples more faster there to continue their surrogacy treatment in that country, there will be different priority lists, I believe.
So there is one more comment. Thank you, Peter. There is one more comment regarding from Advania. Would like to say thank you for Dr. Birol and his team to save the biometric material. And another question related from IVMED still in Bratislava, because Victoria Vita clients were asked if they want to bring it back to Ukraine, but IVMED clients were not asked yet.
So all IVMED biomaterials, which is including all agencies, which is working with IVMED, all frozen material now in Bratislava. So of course, like anytime, if there is a request, if registration process in Slovakia completed, like as an import-export, patient have right their material to move back to Ukraine. But this is, of course, depends request of the clinic and approval of the clinic and agency and patient. But for now, everyone and every material in Slovakia.
Thank you, Birol. Matilda is asking that we mentioned the needed paperwork. When our materials was gladly rescued to Bratislava, there was nothing asked in terms of signing or other documents. Will this be asked, requested later? So I will explain a bit, because this transportation started on day 3 of the war. Actually, it happened on day 3 of the war, on the 27th of February. However, it started to be prepared on the very first day, on the 24th in the morning. So while we understood what happened, we couldn't believe. However, we started to make decisions, and we made the right decisions. So we started to collect the samples, to pack them, to bring them from Kiev to Lviv, to collect them from different destinations, to deal with the Slovakian authorities and the customs and the ARKCryo company. And finally, we did the first transportation on the 27th. So definitely, and during all this time, we had a lot of phone calls and the emails and the chat with the patients, and we even couldn't respond to every of those. And we had no time to communicate with everyone, asking to sign the paperwork and to provide the consent and things like that. So that was a decision of the institution to move these materials in order to save them. While we are continuing the storage of the biological materials in Bratislava, yes, patients will become to be contacted by the clinical facility who is responsible for their storage. So if you are the patient of IVMED or any other location, if you are the partner of the Ovogene and you have your materials booked, you will be contacted by your coordinator asking for your consent for continuous storaging of your materials. And in case you would decide that, and it's time for this right now, so still we are very busy with all the paperwork and the communications, but it's time to start to ask every individual about their decisions, as we just heard about the possible movements, the samples back to Ukraine. So of course, this should be a decision of every individual. We just as a clinic made our decision in order to guarantee the safety, as this was our responsibility to guarantee it. But now your coordinators, as I said, you will be contacted by your coordinators regarding your specific decision, how to proceed with your samples. Would you like to store them in Slovakia? Would you like to move them back to Ukraine? Would you like to move them somewhere else? We are just discussing here about the ways how to do this and what is possible. So, Peter, any other questions in the chat?
I see just one additional question regarding paperwork needed for shipping to USA when embryos were not created in the US. So I believe the requirements, first of all, we need to clarify with the clinic in USA how they deal with FDA regulation. Do they accept samples already created outside of EU, or they require you to send any confirmation like blood testing before, or the donor, in case there were used some donor samples for creating embryos, and that's it.
Yeah, from the medical point of view, Federal Drug Association, which is the FDA, it's requesting the specific screening of every biological materials or every patient. And the only acceptance can be done in case the testing, the blood has been sent for the laboratories for the testing, or there is a frozen sample sometimes, and some clinics, for example, as we do for all our donors at Ovogene, we keep the storage of the biological materials of the donors, which can be retested in any time when it's needed. So in this case, we may make the materials to be compliant with the FDA testing requirements, or maybe the clinic will be able to make an exception. However, in our practical experience, we haven't had any like this. So there is an alternative to ship it elsewhere if there is no FDA testing for these materials done. But this is, again, it's an individual case. So as I can see, these are all questions from the chat right now. And I would like to thank everyone who participated in this webinar for all your questions, for your time, for the discussion. I would like to thank you, Birol and Peter, and the organizers for spending time with us and sharing your experience and the knowledge. And I would like to wish everyone to stay safe and to be brave. And I wish Ukraine to be back to our strong and beautiful Ukraine, as we know, without any actions from any borders around.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your attention. Thank you so much for all your requests. And from my side, I just
thank you so much.
We will keep supporting all clients' pull requests. Thank you.
And please do not hesitate to contact us if you would need any help or any advices. And I wish every patient to continue your journey for the parenthood. And you still need to see that the options are here. Even Ukraine is not a country temporary for the treatment. There are ways how to continue your treatment and how to become happy parents really soon. So I wish you all the best and stay safe. Goodbye.